Hi all, this is Sherry Dansby here, Dansby Photography and Multimedia, based in Westminster, California. It is Sunday, July 25th, 2021. I hope everyone is staying safe. I mentioned on my Facebook feed that I was chosen by a major photography vendor, and that vendor is PhotoWhoa. The interview questions are rather simple of them. There's only 10 of them, so this should go quick. And here's the first one. You have won the Westminster Photographer of the Year award 9 years in a row. How do you feel about this achievement? Well, all I can say is I'm extremely humbled and extremely grateful that despite me having a nervous breakdown after my father's death, I was still able to have enough influence in modern portraiture and modern photography to achieve that goal. Okay? Moving on to the next question. Tell us about your first introduction to photography. What drew you into this field? That's a long one. What drew my first introduction was when my dad gave me a plastic toy camera as a kid. Okay, and then he gave me a Polaroid camera, the kind that ejects the film, already developed. If you're over 30, you had a Polaroid. And from there, I didn't really think of anything of it. I mean, the first pictures I took as a kid, the only contest they would win is the most horrible photo award. They were that bad. Sorry, a nose itch. As you can see, I got the game on in the other room. It's the Chicago Cubs versus the Arizona Diamondbacks. Cubs are currently leading 3-0. All Cubs property is, and all Cubs logos is the property of the Chicago Cubs and MLB Network. Okay? It's just a coincidence. What drew me into the field, I've always been interested in pictures, art, stuff like that. I just never really followed through with it. Then in 2009, my aunt passed away. At that time, the former owner of Pride Portrait Company, which was founded in 1955 by my uncle, that was his wife that passed away in September 2010. Or 2009, one of the two. It was late 2009, if I remember right. So it's been almost 12 years. He needed some help running the business and finishing the jobs. So I offered to help. I had started a media transfer company, taking old DVDs, family photos, stuff like that, and transferring them to digital. Old VHS tapes, not DVDs. Old cassette tapes. You get the idea. And transferring them to digital. And I had built up quite a following. I had 200 clients my first year. Go figure. But, so I thought, I'll give this a shot. I liked it as a kid. And I found out I was fairly good at it. And the whole thing with that was basically Now, mind you, this is just a rough draft. I'll redo it later after I get cleaned up. This is for my reference. Um, I he said I was good with a camera. I went back to school at Santa Ana College. I had a lot of excellent instructors, and I thank each and every one of them for that. And so what drew me into it was getting the emotion, seeing the emotion on people's faces, when they saw what we captured at Pride. Because they were doing high school reunions. Some people hadn't seen their friends in 40, 50 years. And yes, you never grow up after high school. That really caught my attention. So my parents bought me my first DSLR. Like I said, I went back to school, took some classes, and became quite good. Even though I did not follow the rules. Like rule of thirds, stuff like that. Like, for instance, I got the rule of thirds on the screen camera, and I'm not really following it. I'm dead center. What made me decide to start the business was that my uncle asked me, he just couldn't handle it anymore. He was done with the editing, done with computers, done with photography. And by 2010, the business founded in 1955, it had been 50 years, 55 years. So in 2013, I took over the business and merged it with my company, Backup Productions. I was just doing this to supplement my Social Security, nothing major. And I shot portraits, events, birthday parties, red carpets. I'll get more into that in a minute. But something was not right. Question number 3. Now that I spent a long time on that question, on question number 2. Question number 3 is, who were my biggest influences when you started? My biggest influence was actually my dad. He was not a photographer, but he was an artist. He was an excellent writer. And also my grandmother, who passed away in 1984, she had 2 sayings that I live by. Good, better, best. Don't let it rest until the good's better and the better's best. Basically, it means there's always room for improvement. And the other saying was, the only time you really fail is when you don't try. And from there, my uncle was also an influence. Since he started the company, I wanted to finish it, etc. But when it comes to household name photographers, I would have to say my biggest one was Ansel Adams. A lot of people don't know this, but he drove the country with a camera strapped on his station wagon. Everybody under 30, Google station wagon. And he shot things natural. He didn't know he was doing the rule of thirds. He had no formal education. He was a master at his craft. And also, after Googling famous people who did photography, I would have to say another photography influence was Leonard Nimoy. Yes, Spock. Leonard Nimoy, before he landed the role in Star Trek, was actually at USC studying to be a photographer. Because back then people relied on portraits. He focused on nudes, especially heavy set nudes. And he he's not known for his photography. He's known for his acting. He's known for being Spock, which I feel is a shame. So those were my influences, my top 5. My father, first and foremost, because he introduced it to me. My grandmother, with her never say die attitude. Ansel Adams, with his break all the rules attitude. Yes, I know when you go to school they only tell you that he followed all the rules. Well, he wrote the rules. Okay? My uncle, who started the business, and Leonard Nimoy, my top 5. Question number 4. Were you invited to many red carpet shoots, and how has that experience helped you in your career? Yes. I thank my sister Shelby Chang and for prompting me to go out and do red carpets. I did a Love All Humans red carpet event. It was my first one. I brought all my gear, my backdrops, my lights, my equipment, my lenses, and it was held in a room, in a hall. The red carpet was laid out in a hallway about the size of your kitchen. And it taught me one major thing, and that is to always check out the place first, which I normally did, but always be prepared for the unexpected. Okay? How that experience helped me is very simple. It taught me to shoot on location and to take my editing time, find a way to take my editing time and reduce it from 3 hours for one picture to maybe a minute for one picture. Okay, I'll have more on that in an upcoming blog post. And it also taught me to keep my camera equipment at the ready and be prepared for any circumstance. That's why when the opportunity presented itself, I bought my own red carpet. Yes, I actually have a red carpet that I can use. Okay? The 5th question, and this is how PhotoWhoa states it. You are passionate about photographing the queer community. What made you choose this as your main niche? Well, it's not the queer, for one thing, PhotoWhoa. It's the LGBTQ plus community. But I'm transgender. That's a whole different blog post or a whole different live feed. And I also consider my sexuality lesbian. So, but I did a lot of Googling on how to edit same-sex couples. I took a same-sex couple wedding seminar, wedding workshop, hands-on. Unfortunately, those pictures have been lost. But, and I did a couple of free boudoir shoots. And yes, for you guys out there, there is a dude-war and there's a couples war. Go figure. What made me choose this as my niche was a lot of going back and forth. One, the location where I live. I'm in LA. I'm in the greater Southern California area. I'm 30 miles from LA. And it made me, I'm 10 miles from Long Beach, the LGBT capital of the world. This was my main niche because of the simple fact that I am part of that community. You Google transgender boudoir, and click on images, you're going to find a lot of porn. A lot of images that don't represent the queer community, or the LGBT community, or the trans community in a positive light. Let's just say that. So I was doing portraits and birthdays and everything at the time, but I was honing my skills. That made me choose the fact that there was nothing representative of my community, photography-wise. And believe it or not, a lot of photography studios don't do the LGBTQ. And if they do, it's only for the money. I do it with a passion. I'll work with anybody on pricing. Yes, you go on my website, you may see a deal or something that has a set price. But like I said, that's for another post. So, it's because I care. In 2017, as most of you know, my dad passed away, and I did have obligations. I finished them. I had a nervous breakdown, and I retired from photography for 2 years. So, but that's another blog post. This video is mainly to get ideas for me, my own personal, to type in this document. So, because people need them, that's what made me choose them. And because the LGBT community does not have a lot of money. Anyways, moving on. Question number 6. Once again, these are their words, not mine. How is queer photography different than any other? Can you give some tips to our readers? Queer photography is not different. Instead of dealing with, for instance, you have a same-sex marriage, instead of dealing with a man and a woman, you're dealing with 2 men or 2 women who are getting married. When it comes, there's no difference. Unless when it comes to portraiture and weddings and engagements and boudoir. When it comes to people, there's no difference. It's the stereotypes. that are different. The best tip that I can give the readers of this blog is be accepting, be understanding, and be open-minded. Like if you're shooting a cisgender woman and a transgender man, there is, for reference sake, a transgender man is a female who was born in the wrong body and is transitioning to become male. Okay? Who was born biologically female, but her gender identity is male. Okay? When you're doing them, note, yeah, they may look it, but unless you're doing nudes, and I'll get to that in a minute, but if you're doing a wedding, you're dealing with a man and a woman, period. If you're shooting a same-sex wedding, and one is a cisgender female, and the other one is a transgender female, you have to account for the fact that the transgender female will be taller. A transgender female is someone who is assigned male at birth, but at some point in her life realized she was born in the wrong body, and she is either in the process or has completed transitioning to the point that she wants to. So that's the tips I can give you. They're no-brainer tips. Treat them as you would want to be treated. There's a common misconception going around that the LGBT community is loaded with money. That couldn't be further from the truth. Okay? Anyways, moving on. Question number 7 is, how has your work evolved over the years? My work from when I was a kid, I was given it about age 5 or 6, and how it's evolved over the years is actually quite simple. And that is very simple. It's gotten better. I've learned from my own mistakes, not from what some teacher told me. I learned that some people like them close up, like the camera to be right in their face, and some people like you to shoot from a distance, and some people don't like you to shoot them at all. So I think evolved is the wrong word. I think transitioned is more correct. How it has transitioned over the years is very simple. It's gotten to the point where I don't care about the rules. I don't. I care about the comfort and safety of my client. I care about their needs, not mine. Okay? Question number 8. It says, you also mentioned on your website about a phone call that changed your life. Could you tell us more about it? That phone call, it's a summary of actually 2 phone calls. One, I was contacted by a representative of the rapper P. Diddy. How he got my number, I have no idea. And he wanted me to shoot his Grammy party. Yes, the Grammys. Yeah. So, what I did is I said, sure, I'll do it. I drove my beat up Dodge Dakota up there with all my equipment in the back, and I went, and then next thing I knew, it was gone. The second phone call was actually from a good friend of mine, and Thomas, CEO of Transgender Talent. And what she wanted me to attend the Angels of Change event, and there was some very influential people there: Jazz Jennings, Jessica Harford, author of I Am Jazz, and of course everybody's favorite trans female, Caitlyn Jenner. And that just reinforced what I wanted to. That just pushed me in. Was the process of pushing me in a different direction. Yes, it's true, I was also performing and photographing. Go figure. Question number 9, we're almost done, is what do you want readers to take away from this interview? Very simple. Be kind, be patient, be flexible, and open-minded with any potential client. And also, don't be afraid to break the rules. I absolutely hate photographers who follow the rule of thirds, or don't want to have a hard shadow, or don't want a too light of a shadow in their lighting. I mean, no, that can't happen. And last question before I wrap this up. Number 10, what advice would you give to photographers who aspire to become queer community photographers? Well, once again, to the LGBT community, I apologize for the word of the use queer by PhotoWhoa. And believe me, I will make sure that is all changed when I do the when I send the interview in. What advice would I give them? Same thing I want. Be open-minded. Be an ally. Don't say one thing and don't say, oh yeah, I'm all for you, and then be one of those people who go, no, I'm not going to serve same-sex couples, or, march with them in pride. Photograph them in their natural element. Go to gay bars. Go to the transgender nights. Take your point and shoot with you. Be part of their circle. You don't have to be queer, you don't have to be LGBTQ or any of the other letters. Granted, I'm not dismissing them, but just become part of their life. Okay? That's it. This is Sherry Dansby from Dansby. This has been Sherry Dansby from Dansby Photography and Multimedia. I will be posting these questions and answers and the blog post from PhotoWhoa and this video on my website, my YouTube channel. All my links can be found at the bottom of my website, dansbyphotography.com. I can be reached at dansbyphotography@outlook.com. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this is one of many videos and also one of many interviews. Thank you. Have a great day. Goodbye.